Hey everybody, it's me, Jose Segura, your SMEA president. Welcome to another episode of Fireside Chat with the President. Welcome back from spring break. I hope that you all had an opportunity to kind of decompress, relax, and enjoy some time with your family, especially those of you at home with school-age kids. Hopefully you didn't have to do any distance teaching over the spring break and you really had a chance to kind of recharge your batteries. We're in it for the long haul now. Starting tomorrow will be our fifth week of school closure, and puts us about a month and a half out from the end of the school year. And so this is the long haul here. And as we move into that fifth week, I really want to take this opportunity to talk a little bit about personal responsibility. And when I talk about personal responsibility, I'm talking about it in the context in which we currently find ourselves, right? COVID-19, this pandemic has become something that's not just local, but it's global. We know it's everywhere. And that we are hearing from both the federal, the state, and the local governments telling us, what we can do to help flatten this curve, reduce the number of those infected, and in turn reduce the number of people who die of this disease. And so, we're doing our part really to help our neighbors, and not just folks that we know and care about, but people that we don't know, people that we've never met before, but that are no more than 1 or 2 degrees separated from us and our regular lives. And so it's really important that we do our part. And so I really want to talk a little bit about that today. I know that being away from our students and away from our classrooms is really hard. A lot of us really are looking for ways to connect back with students. And for some of us, that may mean doing things like encouraging our principals to hand out supplies, or to provide direct access work to kids, like hard copies of things. And there's even principals out there who are encouraging this amongst their teachers and staff. And they're really classifying it all as being voluntary. But I want to talk about that for a minute. Right now, every level of government is telling us, stay at home. If you're not an essential employee, in other words, you don't have to show up to work in order to keep the world moving, then you shouldn't be doing that. You should be home. We are super fortunate that we can work from home. We have the technology to do it, we have the equipment to do it, we have the infrastructure to do it. Now, I know that's not the case for everybody in California, but right here, right now, this is something that we can do. And more importantly, our students have access. Now, I know not every single one of our kids has connected yet, but the vast majority of them have. They all have access to devices and to broadband internet service. And that's super important because that connects us to them and them to us. And that is how we connect with our students right now, through these virtual means. And so if your principal is saying, hey, who wants to volunteer to come down to the school and pass out supplies, essentially what they're saying is, who wants to put themselves and others in harm's way in order to do something that is not essential. It is not required. Our students can still learn. We have a lot of tools at our disposal. Some of these tools we've known about for a long time. We've used them in our classroom in the past. We're very familiar with them. Other tools, we know they've been in the toolbox this whole time, but we never actually pulled that tool out and used it. But now's our chance to really familiarize ourselves with that tool. And even if I can do one thing, if I can generate one skill with that new tool that's been in my toolbox this whole time, then that's one more tool I have to connect with my students, to help my students to learn and to keep their educational progress moving forward. And so we really need to do our part. And social distancing, or as Governor Newsom likes to call it, physical distancing, which I think is more appropriate, right? It's not just about being social, it's about being physically distant from others. Maintaining that physical distance when we have to go out, when we need to be out of our homes, buying groceries, doing things that are required, so that we can continue to sustain ourselves and our families in our homes. Going to our school sites and passing out supplies, or gathering up books to hand to students, those are not essential. There are digital ways that these things can be done. And that's really what we need to focus on. If any administrator is out there asking for volunteers to come out and to do these things, they are essentially putting you in harm's way. And even worse, they're asking you to volunteer to put yourself in harm's way for no reason. And I really, really, really want to emphasize this with all of our teachers across our association, across our district, at every site and every level. We have the means to communicate with our students. We have the means to continue to educate our students and stay connected with them through virtual formats and platforms that we already have access to. There is no reason to be at our school sites doing otherwise. I know we want to. I know we want to be connected. I know we want to see their little faces and be able to say hello to them, and I totally get that. And if you're asking your principal for these things, your principal should step up as a leader and take charge and look you right in the eye virtually and say, no, I'm not going to put you in harm's way. As the leader of my school said, as the principal of my school, I'm not going to put my teachers in those circumstances. I'm not going to ask for volunteers. I'm not even going to recommend or suggest it, because their primary responsibility is to keep their employees and students safe. And keeping us away from our work sites when we're not essential is the best way to do that. And so I really encourage you to share this with your other staff, people who may not get a chance to watch this video, and to really emphasize with them that our part is to stay home as much as we possibly can and only go out to do the essentials. Things like food and medicine and stuff like that. And when we can, get out into our neighborhoods and communities, do our walking, walk our dogs, get our physical exercise while we're maintaining our social distancing. But going down to schools in groups and passing out supplies and that kind of stuff, those days are behind us. You should not be doing those things. And no principal should be asking you to do those things, even voluntarily. And we all know principals are in a position of authority, and they know this too. And so that even that their suggestions or their requests for volunteers carries weight. And a lot of us are going to feel like we have to do those things because we're being asked to do it by someone in a position of authority. And again, that person in a position of authority should have the sense to say, no, we're not going to be doing these things. I'm not going to be putting my staff in harm's way. There's enough district employees who are putting themselves in harm's way every single day because they are considered essential employees and they are doing the kind of work that needs to be done. And we thank them from the bottom of our hearts for doing the kinds of things that they're doing, whether it's food services or it's maintenance and down the line. And it's absolutely amazing that those people are showing up to work and getting it done every school day. We don't want to add to that. We don't want to show up at our school sites to do things like pass out supplies, using personal protection equipment like face masks and gloves that could be used for other departments, for other people. We don't want to be consuming personal protective equipment that can be used by others who have to be at work. All right, so that's my soapbox on that. When I talk about personal responsibility, we need to be able to say no. And we need to be able to point out to our administrators that they shouldn't even be asking us to do these things because we're not essential in this instance. We have a way of doing our jobs from a distance safely and continue to move our students forward. It's going to be a lot to do between now and the end of the school year. I totally get that. And I got to frankly tell you, there's a lot we haven't figured out yet. We're in the process of trying to bring the district to the table to bargain the remainder of this school year. How do we get from where we are to where we need to be on June 5th? How do we close out our school year? What do we do about grades? What do we do about report cards? What do we do about student supplies in their desks? What do we do about a lot of these things that just seem normal and natural? We just do them automatically every year because we're physically in our workspace with our students and we're able to do it. We can't do that now. So, like I said, we're in the process of trying to bring the district to the table so we can bargain this out so that everybody at every site across our district is doing the same thing, the same way, safely and efficiently, so we can get through the rest of our school year, and then we can start talking to the district about what's going to happen next year. So we're not going to have the next year conversation until we can get through this year. I know we have an MOU that's already in place for distance learning, and that's a great start. And I think I mentioned this before, that put up some rails for us, right? So now we know the rails in which we're working in. But now we need to go back to the district and say, okay, let's paint some lines in those rails. What are the rules within those rails? And that's what we're hoping to do soon. Like I said, we reached out to the district to bring them to the table to bargain this out. And we're hoping that they see the value in doing so just as much as we do. So stay safe, stay home, only go out when it's essential for you to go out, and continue to do everything that you can do from home to support your students, to educate your students, to protect your own family, your friends, and your loved ones. Thanks a lot, everybody.